we have held this moral high ground, and if we let these people come in and let this new word come in, then where does that leave us? We don't no longer have the moral high ground anymore. And so it was more of a self-serving campaign of suppression. And Paul was not, we just gonna say he was a bit on the fed up tip. He done got beaten in prison and everything, and here you keep coming behind him with this garbage. And when I say garbage, he actually called it garbage. He called it dung. He called it vile. He called it just a lot of things. So he called it garbage, so I'm gonna call it garbage. He's like, you people are coming in with this garbage after everything that I have endured to lay a firm foundation. And then he is pleading to the church, don't let them come in and deceive you and destroy or infiltrate the foundation that you have, that you were established on. And some of us, and I thought about this because my initial foundation in God was not great. It wasn't great. My foundation was a form of godliness. It was the act of church. And so there was a point in my life where God had to come in and tear that foundation up and start rebuilding on something that was real and solid. And my thinking in going through this was my greatest efforts should go into keeping that foundation. Because the enemy comes in and he's trying to chip away at the foundation. My greatest efforts should be in protecting my foundation. How do I protect my foundation? We're going to get into it, I promise. You see all these papers? We're going to get into it. But how do I protect my foundation? See, he was talking to this church because they were younger. You know, the church was somewhat new. It was, it hadn't been 100 years old yet. So we consider that fairly new, being that it's now been thousands of years. And so they didn't have some of the benefits that I have. They hadn't, they weren't born in the church. This was all new to them. But I have the benefit of understanding that I can have my own relationship with God, that I can have a relationship with the truth so that when a lie comes in, I can recognize it. But I have to have a relationship with the truth. So we're going to start, and I'm also watching Zoom-ish. So if you raise your hand, I think I'll see you. I hope I'll see you. Finally, my brethren, rejoice in the Lord. To write the same thing to me, is not indeed grievous, but it is to you safe. And in one other translation, it said it's not tedious. And what he was saying is, I don't mind rewriting this because you guys are in danger. And so I'm reminding you of the dangers, some of the traps that are being set for you. So it doesn't bother me to go over information that I've gone over before. It's joyous for me. It's not grievous. It's not tedious. It's not a waste of my time because I need you to understand you're in danger. And so he said, beware of dogs. Beware of evil workers. Beware of the concision. And so in those days, like the scourge of the earth was called dogs. They were like the worst of the worst. You know what I mean? Like if you were called a dog, now if you're called a dog, it just means like you're not a nice person. But it was more powerful and impactful, and it was more of an insult back then to be called a dog. You are less than human. You have no value, because back then people didn't have dogs as pets. This was before the house dog. This was before the teacup poodle and the all these ones they make in these designer dogs. This was before that. This was when that was like the mangy thing that just roamed around scavenging. And basically, mainly their only purpose was to clean up like the trash by eating it. And so to be called a dog was a very intense thing. But in this letter, Paul used aggressive language intentionally. These people are not your friends. These people don't mean you well. They are dogs. In another translation, it called them ravenous wolves. They're just trying to deceive and devour you. Beware of them. Beware of the ones who are coming with something other than what I taught you. Beware of someone who's coming with something that doesn't line up with what you know inside of you. Beware of someone who's coming and telling you, you're not saved. You're not one of his, because later on it talks about how they were telling them, once again, you're not circumcised, so you're not a Christian. You're not saved. You're not one of us. And then the ironic thing is, later on, I didn't even know this. I didn't know this cosmetic surgery was a thing back then. So when the Jews went into, there were certain Jews that went into the Roman culture and the Greek culture, and they wanted to blend in. Well, back then they had naked bathhouses, and so they were trying to figure out how to cover up their circumcision, because they didn't want the rest of them to know that they were the Jews. I'm like, never would have, yeah. But he's trying to get them, because what's happening is he's setting a foundation as he's going through the things he's going through. But of course, there are forces that are coming in trying to undermine, because in the spirit, they see what's happening. They see what's being set up, and they don't like it. See, we look at the people, but it wasn't just the people. It was the spirit that was driving the people that's looking in the spiritual realm, that understands what Paul is setting up and the mindset and the mentality and who these people are in God. And they don't like that. They don't want that. They want to keep with the religious practices that don't mean anything. So beware of the concisions, and basically just the false words, the false doctrines, the false theology. For we are the circumcision which worship God in the spirit and rejoice in Christ Jesus. And when he says we are the circumcision, man, when you really start to study this, you understand he's not actually talking about circumcision. But see, circumcision was a term that they understood, which means you were chosen. You were the ones who were right. And so he's saying we are the ones, even without the physical circumcision, we are the chosen. We are the ones who are right. We are the ones who God has put his stamp of approval on. Yes, circumcision of the heart. You can say that in mic if you'd like. But what he was saying, and the reason, and the more you study, the more you understand that Paul is using terms that make sense to them, that they can relate to help them to understand, because what's being lorded over them? Oh, we're the circumcised, and so we're better than you. And what he's saying is, actually, in the eyes of God, we are the circumcised. And yes, Paul was circumcised. He was circumcised on the 8th day. But what he's saying is, I identify with you, not because of my physical acts that I have done, but because of our proximity and relationship with God. We are the circumcised. They're lording this over you, but actually, they're wrong, and we're on the right path.
I think it's important too, because like these people, the Judaizers and legalists, it wasn't like they were like purposely trying to betray people. They honestly believed what they thought. Just like Paul, when he was Saul, honestly believed what he was teaching. And he's basically trying to get to the point that God was making all along, even from the very beginning. If you look at, I think it's like Deuteronomy 30:6, he was letting them know it was never really about the outward circumcision. So like, if we are the circumcision, we are the ones that have the true circumcision. We are the ones that have a heart that is circumcised unto the Lord, which was the whole purpose, but they didn't get it. They just got the physical components of it.
And so, for we are the circumcision which worship God in the spirit and rejoice in Christ Jesus and have no confidence in the flesh. And so what was happening, and the reason why he used the word circumcision is because, like I said before, they were putting a lot of emphasis on all of the traditions that you have to keep in order to be a part of God's chosen people. And they had confidence. It was like the young ruler. He said, which rule is the most important? And Jesus said, well, I kept this one, I kept that one, I kept this one, and I kept that one. But he still went away discouraged because he was not circumcised in his heart. He had confidence in his fleshly works and not understanding the message that Jesus was trying to get his people to understand was, it's about giving me your heart. Because When we say heart, we don't mean like our physical heart. We mean your intentions, your purpose, your drive, your reason for being. It should be about me. So when it says the circumcision of the heart, I don't know why, but when I was younger, I used to always just think like the physical heart. It's like in your chest. But it's about your thought process and how you think and how you act and why you do what you do. And he said, we have no confidence in flesh, meaning there's nothing that we can ever do that'll ever be good enough. It's not about feeding the poor. It's not about giving clothes to the homeless. It's not about going to the temple every day. It is not about giving your offering. It is not only about fasting, but it is about the condition of your heart. It is about the condition of your mindset. It is about your surrenderance and yielding to God. That is the one and only act that puts you in right standing, because you can do all the right things and still go. You can be at church when the doors are closed, sitting out there under the canopy, giving water to people and praying and ministering. But what did the Bible say? Lest I minister to the whole world and lose my soul. You can do the right acts, but if you have not surrendered and submitted to God, it is all for nothing. I saw a shirt that said, God wants custody, not weekend visits. God has like weekend visits with us. We have custody of our intentions and who we are, and he gets like, Sunday and Wednesday sometimes. But the other 5 days of the week, I'm in control. But I was thinking, even when I was praying, and I was thinking earlier today, when we say he's the Lord of my life, a Lord means ruler. There's no servant that can tell the Lord what he will and won't do, or what the Lord will or won't do. But we say God is Lord of our lives, but we still want to be in control. In what world is the servant over the Lord and running the kingdom? So this is what Paul is talking about when he's talking, because the legalistic Jews had confidence in their fleshly acts, in their traditions, in their culture. Kind of like, I bring this up all the time because it was like the bane of my existence for years. You were holy if you wore stockings and a long dress. And the patent leather pumps, you remember the little patent leather pumps you wore? You had them in every color: pink, peach, white, black, the little pumps. Oh, she must be a good church girl. She got stockings on and the little patent leather pumps, and she got the long skirt on. And Paul was saying, it's got to be bigger than that. It's got to be bigger than that. Verse 4, though I might also have confidence in the flesh, if any other man thinketh that he hath, wherefore he might trust in the flesh, I more. And what he's saying is, if anybody has a right, it's me. Because of my heritage, because of my knowledge, because of my station, because of my stature. So if anybody really should be walking around talking about who deserves it, based on acts and works and station, it's me. Because remember, he was extremely educated. His family was affluent. He was very wealthy. Later on, it calls him a Hebrew's Hebrew. He wasn't ashamed of his Jewish heritage. That's later on when they're talking about how they were trying to cover it up. And he's saying, so if anybody really could be bragging, it would be me. Then we go to 5, and he says, circumcised the 8th day of the stock of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, of a Hebrew of the Hebrews, as touching the law, a Pharisee. And basically, he's just touting out his lineage and his station and his heritage. Not to be haughty, but to help them to understand, don't you remember who I am? Who I was, where I came from? I was a persecutor of the church, working the law, doing the right thing, the right acts in the eyes of man. Concerning zeal, persecuting the church, touching the righteous which is in the law, blameless. So basically what he's saying is, according to man, everything that I did, I was right. I was persecuting people, dragging them out of their houses, killing them, beating them, imprisoning them, taking their stuff. And like, if you preach this anymore, you going down. But according to the law and according to man, I was absolutely right. I was 100% good. I was completely blameless. But in the eyes of God, I was his enemy and I was against him. So basically, those verses are just him reminding them of his history back down to the 12 tribes. But what things were gained to me, those I counted loss for Christ. And when he said were gained to me, meaning all of that status stuff that is important to people actually meant absolutely nothing to God. I was still his enemy. Why people thought I was somebody, and my family was proud of me, and my friends were proud of me, and my boss was proud of me because I went after my job and I did it with zeal and I did it well. God counted me as his enemy, which means that everything that I had, everything that I was, everything that I thought was absolutely nothing in reality. Yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ Jesus my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Christ Jesus. And so back then, when he said, we kind of gloss over that when he says I count it as dung. Dung was like the most vile thing you could call something. It was the most repulsed, most looked down on. It was like, I don't even know if we have a word that's strong enough to understand what he's saying about his status and his stuff. What he's saying is, I hate it now. Because see, back then, dung was something to be despised and hated. All the stuff that I had, my stature, my status, I hate it all. I hate it. I don't want any more connection to it. And not because he was like, I just want to be broke, busted, and disgusted, and I want to be poor. But I don't want anything to do with that old stuff that represents me being an enemy of God. I hate the fact that I used to be an enemy of my Lord and my Savior. I hate the man that I used to be. I'm disgusted with all of those trappings. So when he talks about loss, what he's saying is, not only do I let it go, but I hate it and I'm disgusted with it and I'll never go back to it. And when I was reading it, I was thinking about when they talk about in the vomit. You rich, coming from a wealthy family, and now you getting beat all the time, thrown in jail. You got all kind of, you just want to discourage. It would seem appealing to some people who aren't really locked in to go back to that nice, highfalutin, fine, servants and fine materials and fine food. But Paul was so locked in that the thought of it disgusted him. So when he says it's as dung, this was more than just saying it's crap. This is saying this is something I utterly despise. Not because it was stuff or riches or wealth or affluence, but because of what it represented in his life. And be found in him. So, that I may win Christ. There's nothing on this earth that is a bigger prize than Christ. And everything I go through is worth it. Everything that I quote unquote lose is worth it if I just have Christ. I was telling Pastor, I saw this video and it truly made me cry. It was this young lady, and she had 2 kids, and they put her story in there, and she had escaped domestic violence, and she had been homeless for 2 years with her kids, and sometimes she slept on the street with them because the shelters were full. And so the guy was like, here, I'm giving you a brand new, I'm giving you money. But no, he didn't give her money first. He said, here's an envelope with 10 jobs in it and free childcare. And she was just like floored. She was so happy. He blindfolded him. He said, do you trust me? Can I take you somewhere? She's like, absolutely. And he was talking to one of her little boy. He looked like he was about 5 years old. And he said, do you want toys? And do you want this? And do you want that? He said, as long as I have Jesus and my mama, I don't need no toys. This is a baby. who's homeless. Not only is his mama struggling, but what she did was, in the midst of her circumstance, she gave him the only thing she could. She gave him Jesus, a dedication and a commitment and a love of Jesus. He said, I don't need no toys and I don't need nothing else. As long as I have Jesus and my mama, they're the most important thing. And that the problem sometimes is we have too much. We have too many options. And sometimes God is our last one. And Paul is saying, Christ is my only option. I've eliminated every other option. I've cut ties with that other life. I've cut ties with those people. I don't have a connection to that anymore. All I have is Christ. And literally, all he had was Christ. Because remember, I think it was in Acts, he told them, don't worry about what you're going to eat. Don't take any provisions with you. Just go. And Paul was like, yep, I'm out. See y'all later. But sometimes maybe we have a few too many options. And we go through our options first before we turn to God. But Paul was saying, my only option is Christ. For God I live, for God I die. He was like, hey, this thing is afflicting me. And God was like, my grace is sufficient. He was like, say less. I'm going to keep on pushing. He wasn't like, we're going to debate this because I'm doing everything that I should. Look at all that I'm going through. And I'm still afflicted. I feel like you really should. He was like, say less. I'm gone. Where am I going next? I push on. I press on because you're the only thing that matters. My physical discomfort doesn't even matter. And you didn't hear about it again. You did not hear about his affliction again. And it was so light to him that they didn't even tell you what it was. We have no idea. People have speculated for decades of what it was. But he was like, it don't even matter. It ain't even worthy to give it any credence or any credibility. I had an issue. God told me he wasn't going to relieve it or deliver it. And I said, say less, pushing on to the next thing. Because the only thing that matters is you, God. And be found in him, not having mine own righteousness, which is of the law. So again, it's like he just keeps reiterating over and over and over and over again. I understand the mentality because I was there. But trust me, this is better. When he's talking about my own righteousness, he was doing all the right things according to man's law. He was perfect. He was blameless. He was great. He was honored. He was revered. He was feared. When he got saved, people was like, this is a trick. That's that persecutor of the Christians. Don't let him in here. Not him. We know who he is. He was so good at his job. He was known. So he wants them to understand, I understand. I understand the mentality. I know it well. I lived it. I was full of my own righteousness. But in the Bible it says, but your righteousness is filthy rags. Your righteousness, not righteousness, your righteousness, your thoughts, your ways, your decisions. Well, God, I think this pleases you. And he's like, you could think that, but you're wrong. Because it's not about what you think. It's about what I think. And so this verse, he's talking about having my own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through the faith of Christ, the righteousness which is of God by faith. And when he talks about by faith, he's talking about you cannot have salvation without faith, because faith is that assurance and that belief. And how can you be saved if you don't believe in God? And you can't be righteous if you're not saved, because you have to be saved to get into right standing. So he had right standing with men, but now all of his endeavors were to continue in right standing with God, because that was all that mattered to him. And so this wasn't him boasting. This was him trying to relate to them and help them to understand, I get it. But feel me where I am now, where I'm trying to help you to get. I am way better off. I may be in jail writing this letter, and I got to send people to you, and I got beaten, I got shipwrecked, and I got all these kind of things happen to me, but I prefer it to what I had before. It's better. What they say is better on this side. It's better over here. That I may know him and the power to take my shoes off. So, don't wear holy socks. Don't wear muddy shoes, because then she's not going to let me put the boot and wash it, even if I took a shower in her house and slept in that bed. I know her. That's great. Like, you know what else I know about her? If I sleep in a bed, it's clean. I don't have to wonder. If I eat off a plate, it's clean. I don't have to wonder. But he's talking about knowing God on a whole different level. Because see, I don't know her thoughts. I know her motives as when it comes to the personal heart of Christ. I have the mind of Christ. But who he is on the inside, because he's in me. He's a part of me. So the thoughts that I think are his thoughts. I no longer have my feelings. I have him because he's coming through me. So when he says to know him, he didn't just mean like, I know that he died on the cross and I know that he healed and he raised the dead. He's talking about that stuff is good, but I'm talking about I know him. See, we'll never on earth know somebody like that. No matter how much you know someone, you'll never know what they always think or how they always feel. Experience with them, but Paul is
just satisfied. He's blessing me. He's keeping me. I can live my life. I can do my thing. But his is like, I'm willing to give. Understand him and know him in a personal way. That's past, and it's like I don't want to just know his blessings and all of those provisions. I actually want to identify with him in his suffering. And I was just thinking about that, like I have never said that. I mean, I know we have to suffer to be with him, but I've never been like, man, I just want to know him in his suffering and in his, like, I've never been like that. You know what I'm saying? Like to go that deep and be like, he was like, I want to know everything about him because I want to understand that power that raised him up. It wasn't a one-time thing. It's living in me. It's working in me. I want to understand that power. And on the other end, I want that power to raise me up again. And I was like, this is like a whole nother level to me of wanting to know Christ.
But also when he said the power of his resurrection, so that was actually also twofold. The resurrection, but the resurrection that has already happened. Christ already raised, the power already raised him from the dead. So if that power has the ability to raise him from the dead, which let's face it, that might be the most difficult act after 3 days. It wasn't the same day or the next day. 3 days later. Of course, he had work to do, so he was do anything, conquer anything, overcome anything. I want that power flowing through me. Now, I've already had the adoration and the acknowledgement, not for my own acknowledgement, but so that I can just kill it for the kingdom. I can go forth and kill it for the kingdom because that power, because let's face it, what Paul endured would have killed a lot of people. But that power working in him kept him going day after day after day after day. He was operating in the resurrection power that just kept rejuvenizing him every day to do the work. But it was because he had a different mentality, a different mindset. He didn't want the power so that people could say, and he could educate and he could illuminate Christ to the world. Every thought he had, me out of here. You can't imprison me. Who I am. He could have absolutely, just like Christ, could have called angels and been like, come get me. I ain't doing it. Paul could have went back and leaned on his heritage and his family status to do it cheerfully. And the only time that you see that he was unhappy or that he was not on the mountain high was when he was looking at the situation and the circumstance and the condition of the church. It wasn't about what he went through, but when he looked at, and it wasn't about all the work I done did and y'all gonna let this, he was like, do you not understand the importance of holding on to what I have taught you and what I have tried to impart into you? It's not even about the work that I did, but it is about the danger of going down this path. And so his heart, his passion was for the people of God and them staying on track. So in this letter, he was heated with the people that were coming in with all this other information. Not because he's like, you're terrible people, but he understood the danger of the information they were trying to bring in. Because he could see a much bigger picture. A lot of times, Pastor said that quote from The Matrix when it said, you can't see past a decision or a choice that you don't understand. But he understood. Because remember, he knows Christ. So he sees much bigger. He's not narrow-minded. He's singularly focused, but he sees bigger picture. He feels what God is. Evangelist Raynon said, man, he went through some stuff, but could you imagine? You and God are one like that. Y'all got it like that. You think what he think. You feel what he feel. You respond what he would want you to respond. You know just could you imagine? To the point where your body is able to sustain inhumane treatment and keep on going. And at times, some of his letters, he was pleading with them because he understood the danger of getting it wrong. And now we come, as Evangelist Raynon calls it, to the Western church, and we have all these comforts. We have all these comforts, and we have all these rights, and we have all these choices, and we have all these options. And, Paul, he had blinders on. You know why they put blinders on horses, right? I think everyone's talked about it for so long, and so they don't get distracted. We done took the blinders off because we want to see everything. And God is like, all of that is just distraction. Don't look over there. Don't worry about that over there. Don't listen to this. And let me tell you, we are seeing men, how did this happen? But this is what Paul was trying to avoid with his letters to the churches. Don't be carried astray. Don't be led astray. You got to have a relationship with God and hold on to that relationship, because that's a relationship with truth. And so when you have a relationship with truth, it's a lot easier to recognize a lie. But the Western church, the modern church, we have a relationship with our version of the truth, or our grandma's version of the truth, because as told, but that's not on the people who didn't tell us, because the Bible was here all along. It wasn't like it was hidden from us. There were a lot of things you got a whooping for, but I don't think reading the Bible was ever one of them. Just go off of what I tell you. Have a relationship with God yourself. This thing has got to be life and breath and food to you. I'm living a life where this is my life. This is my breath. This is my food. This is my sustenance. This is what sustains me. You got to get there. And so it became his passion, a heart for the people, a love so much, not just for God, but for his people. Because remember, he cares about what God cares about, and God cares about his children. But a lot of us care about ourselves. Or, we care about Joy Tabernacle. We care about some people. There's some people, I'm very guilty of saying a lot of times, I couldn't care less. There's not a level of less that I could care. That's not the teachings of Paul. That's not the mindset of Christ. He couldn't care more for souls. And when we start to see people as souls and not their problems and their mistakes and their behavior, because see, Paul saw the behavior, but he also saw the soul. He saw the children of his Father.
One of the things that I thought about when I was reading this, especially when it gets down later, is like even past the souls, like the verse 8 stood out. It's like that the excellency of the knowledge of Christ Jesus. Once I really have an understanding, and once I really understand the, how do I want to put it, the citizenship and where I really, like, it's about how I identify, I guess is what I'm saying. I feel like the modern Western world church, it's almost like we're looking for a genie, not a God.
Yes.
I just need somebody to do what I need them to do inside of my life and what I want to do.
And not in this moment.
Right, and not understanding that, no, I am giving up everything to fit into his plan, not him being a genie inside of my plan, if that makes sense. And then once I have that excellency of the knowledge of God, or I'm growing in that, I begin to understand that this part of this life as I know it is fleeting. It's vanity. It's
a vapor.
Yeah, vapor. That's the word I was looking for. It's not going to last. It's like, where do I identify? Do I identify as a kingdom citizen, or am I just trying to get all I can now? And I think that's what we see in people in general. It's just about now, because my life is comfortable. I have this, I have that. I'm comfortable where I am. But this is not there's no press. I guess one of the things, like, I had a meeting today at school and we were talking about, I've been at work since 7:30. It's been a long day. I'm trying to think what to say. But we were just basically talking about productive struggle, put it that way. Like, not only do we not see grit in schools, we don't see grit in people. People are not willing to press past themselves to see what it is that God wants them to do. It's not the fight to get into his presence. And we say a lot of things about the church that we came from, or the 80s and 90s church, whatever, but those people pressed in no matter what they had. They were doing all that they could to learn more about God, whereas the church now is just like, I'm content where I am. If that makes sense. Sorry, I'm babbling.
It absolutely makes sense. And, I mean, to say you're tired and it's been a long day, that was extremely well articulated. And we have to be careful that we are not, somebody has to be like Paul. Somebody has to be the light. Somebody has to be the salt, because everybody wants to be the sugar. Everybody wants to be the sugar. Nobody wants to be the salt. Nobody wants to be abrasive. Nobody wants to be offensive. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. Nobody wants to be put out. Nobody wants to be uprooted, upended. I just want comfort. God, I just want comfort. Yes.
Because I was talking to God about that, and I was like, God, how do we get there? Because it's really not about actions or anything we do. It's really about a mindset. If our mind doesn't shift to realize that we are fitting in God's plan and he's not fitting in ours, it's not really going to change. And that's why the excellency of the knowledge of him stuck out, because if we don't get in our word and we don't get before him, it's not going to happen. It's not a natural part of us just to be like, I natural. So it's not going to happen just because. We have to be in God's presence. We have to seek for the excellency of the knowledge of him to get to know him. And that's, once we understand, he starts to open up our understanding and we realize this is not about me. Because since I've been born, it's been about me.
Oh, yeah. And now, the funny thing is, get the mic. The funny thing about the culture is everything's about self-love and self-care. Why? Why is everything about you? Because as long as you're thinking about taking care of yourself and comforting yourself and caring for yourself, there's going to always be something that you need. You'll never have time to It's the honest God truth. A yard, I had a balcony off of my bedroom. There was a pond in the backyard. I mean, what more could you want? But I still wanted more. My house was full of shoes, vomiting out of my closet and upstairs and in the kids' closet and everywhere else. Still wanted more, because your flesh will never be satisfied. If that's what you focus on, you'll never have time to focus on God, because your flesh will never be satisfied. That's why the press now is to focus on your unsatisfiable flesh. Yes. Is it on?
So,
yeah, go ahead.
just
listening to the word and of God today reminded me, like, now that I'm a little bit better. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Is that okay? So, when I was younger, before I had a kids, um, I would hear the message and I understood it to an extent, like that we want to have a relationship and we want to be close, and so I would do what I thought was right. But in that, I had to remember that it's what I thought was right. When I became a mom, for the first time, I looked at it as a perspective of, I'm not saying I'm like Christ, but children, I should be, but the I always looked at myself before kids as a child of Christ. I mean, I am a child of Christ, but I didn't have the perspective of how Christ feels about his children. And having children, it just opened my eyes so much more, because when your child is born, especially the mother instinct, because we're the nurturers, you want literally, you want them to grow up, be successful, marry the perfect spouse, have the perfect job, have the perfect house. That's what you want. You want them to, of course, love Christ first, but you want them to be able to be without you until they turn like 25, and then you want them to call you all the time. But point is, they don't know that you have those thoughts when they're really small. They just have thoughts about what makes them happy. And sometimes, like, my kids are outdoor kids. They love being outside. People are like, how did that happen? Everybody loves iPads. I'm like, I don't really know. Honestly, I couldn't tell you, but they love it. And sometimes mommy has a hard day and she wants to stay inside because, one, she's tired. Two, I can't supervise all of you guys running around. And three, there's a lot of moving cars. And I feel something in my spirit that says, mom's being mean. She's not letting us play our friends. And so they get mad and they go upstairs, especially Ethan. I'm putting him on Front Street. He'll be throwing all his toys down the stairs. All the toys. And sometimes I always take a, Tina actually taught me this, but I always take a step back and pause for a second. So whenever he's doing this, I just sit down. I just don't say anything, and I sit there for a second. And I could just imagine God when he's telling us to do something because we don't see where it's supposed to go, because we don't have that relationship that Paul is talking about. So we don't have his thoughts. And we're like, God, I wanted this. You didn't give me this. And no, we don't throw our toys down the stairs, but we stop reading our Bible as much, or we stop praying as much. And he takes a minute. What discipline does this action deserve that will lead them in the right path? Because it's not about disciplining because he doesn't love us. And I'm just saying, as when I became a mom, I realized his point of view a little bit more. God says no, especially in the times that we live now. That's like a dirty word. No. I think I was watching something where it's like this new parenting technique where you don't say no to your child. You use other words. And I'm like, no, your child needs to hear no. N-O. But now you can't say no. But then that makes us rebel when God says no. And let's face it. So I'm going to put Justin on Front Street a little bit. Justin, I love my son. He's a great kid. But he has some issues with doing the things that I ask him to do when I ask him to do it. And so there are times when he, Mom, you want to get me some Chick-fil-A? No, because the trash is still in the kitchen. But when I ask God for something and he say no, I'm like, but why, God? Look at all this stuff. Well, yeah, Justin may be getting good grades, go to school, do all the things he needs to do. But when I asked him to take the trash out, he went to bed. Then he went to school. Trash is still in my house. Then he going to come home and ask me. My house now smells like trash. And let's face it, it's probably going to still be there. And tonight I'm going to bag it up and put it out. And he going to come and ask me, would you like to get me some Chick-fil-A when I didn't do what you asked me to do? So when it comes to Justin, I can see it and I can understand it. But God is saying, did not tell you to stop watching that kind of stuff. Did not tell you to stop having these conversations. Did not tell you to stop eating that. Did not tell you to stop drinking that. Did not tell you to stop sitting around. Did not tell you to fast. Did not tell you to focus on me. And I'm still saying, but God, I need this money and I need this promotion and I need this bonus and I want this car and I want this house and I want to go here and I want this person and I want this and I want that. And he's saying, but did you do any of the things that I told you to do? All I see is that he not giving me what I asked for. I completely forgot that I didn't give him what he asked for. My obedience, my surrender, my whole soul, mind, body, efforts, energy. I ain't give him none of that. None of it. He get a thought from here, time to time. But when his answer is no, I'm highly offended. What do you mean? But Paul got a big no. I'm not relieving that thorn in your side. You know what he said? Yes, sir. Let's go. He got beat again after that. He got imprisoned again after that. And he kept on going. In verse 10, it says that I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering, being made conformable unto his death. See, I always heard about the power of his resurrection. You know what I very seldom heard was the fellowship of his suffering and conforming to his death. What death? Crucifying my flesh. Going through some things, saying yes to God and no to everything else. Because see, Christ, in his death, he said yes to the will of his Father and no to everything else. Let's face it, he was deity in flesh. He could have spoke and the soldiers that were getting ready to beat him would have ceased to live. He could have called the breath back from them. But he said yes to the will of the Father and no to everything else, including whatever feeling he may have. He said no to all of that. So when I'm conformed to his death, that just doesn't mean dying. That means dying to myself, telling myself that dirty 2-letter word. No. We're not going to watch TV. Let me tell you guys. So this is how I got set up because I said, okay, God, I'm not going to watch as much TV. But for some reason, it's the craziest thing. Our home alarm has the temperature on it, but I'm so used to waking up and turning the news on to see what the forecast is to see how to dress my kids. I've been doing that for years. And so I was like, God, why am I struggling so much? He's like, because every day you get up and turn the TV on to watch the news. And then you fall into your old pattern. So you got to do something different at the start. You got to cut this here. And then I felt so ridiculous. He was like, is that not the forecast right there on the screen of the home alarm? Is it not have the forecast on there? Hourly? So the fact that you're saying you're turning on the TV is actually just an excuse because you want to watch TV. And you've made an excuse why you need to turn the TV on. This is what he's telling me. You have made an excuse to not stick to the vow that you made to me when you said you weren't going to do this. God, I'm going to give you more time, but I just need to see what the forecast is going to be. And then there's a news story. I mean, usually, here's the crazy thing. Usually, whenever I turn the news on, the forecast was like the first thing. I always seem to be able to turn it on right before the weather. But then I kept it on. I saw the weather and the traffic and the breaking news and all the other stuff, the human interest stories and all this stuff. And then it went off. And then, just out of habit, you click over to the next thing that I watch after the news goes off. He was like, it's an excuse. You are making an excuse because you said it with your mouth, but you didn't really mean it in your heart and you didn't really want to do it. You really just wanted to keep watching TV. And so what you did was you made me a promise, you made me a vow that you didn't mean, and then you made excuses why you couldn't keep it or didn't keep it or shouldn't have to keep it because I need to watch the news. And he said, you wake up every morning and look at the forecast. Every morning. It's an excuse. And I'm going to be honest, if somebody else would have said that to me, I'd have been like, it is not. But you really can't argue with God when he's like, it's an excuse. You can't be like, God, he knows your heart. He knows your thoughts. He knows your intentions. Yes, ma'am. He just
is allowing, he's exposing us to ourselves, if that makes sense. He already knows the issues and the hangups we have, but he's showing us, let's just be honest, we really don't want God like we say we do.
Absolutely.
Because there's too much stuff that don't matter. Like you just said, I count all this as done. There's too much stuff that doesn't matter that we won't give up for whatever reason. Like the silly stuff. Like when we sit here, everybody's like, yeah, it's silly. But when I'm at home, it's like, man, I really need to be doing, I want to do, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like he's exposing us to ourselves and letting us see, you really don't want me the way you say you want me. You really don't desire me the way you say you desire me. And so I was talking to God about that, and it's like, well, what do we actually do about it? Like when we acknowledge these things and God exposes it, we just keep moving on with our lives. Like, where is the urgency? Where is that like, God, something's wrong with my mind that I want to, and I'm saying you because that's the same thing. I want to watch TV more than I want to pray right now. Something's wrong with my mind. Something's wrong with my heart. What do we do about it though? Does that make sense? Do we pray? Do we go get it? And you're like, I got to fast. I got to get before God. I got to do. Okay, well, maybe tomorrow it'll be better and I won't do it. Like something's wrong with our minds that we do this and we continue this pattern day after day after day. I don't know. That's just the way I was thinking about it.
Do you have your hand up? Just grab this one.
I have the same problem, so I would think that's when, like, I guess accountability will come about.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
That's another dirty word, accountability.
so for instance, like, I haven't, the mentorship program, I still haven't applied to it, but I know I want to do it. It's an excuse, whatever. But if I had somebody that can call right away, like, okay, you know my routine, it's time for watching TV, but let's pray or let's do something, having that maybe because we're so, well, I personally, I'm very like in me by myself. So I don't try to ask for help or whatever if I don't need to or whatever. So maybe that's it. We need each other, in those times. In private, no everybody has to know about it, but something that might help out. Because if we cannot do it by our, if it's a struggle on our own, knowing it, then we need somebody else to help us out.
Absolutely, and that goes back to that word accountability. Let's face it, most of us know our shortcomings and where we're lacking. And we are very good at making excuses for why it's okay or it's not our fault or there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, like, for real. Evangelist was like, you also have the weather on your phone. Thank you. Thank you very much. I even have a widget on my phone that has the forecast on it. I just want to turn the TV on. But, oh God, I have a lot of chapters to get through. But those were the parts that like just really kind of gut punched me when I was studying this. And Pastor kept saying, you have to teach. And I was like, yes, I'm struggling with studying this. This is like getting a very long whooping. Every time he was like, you see this? And I'm like, oh, God, yes. And he's like, no, you just want me to leave you alone and you want me to stop making you feel bad. No, you gonna feel this. It's like, whew, okay, Jesus. That's why I was like, oh, you teaching? Yes. You were like, nah, I was like, oh. If by any means I may attain unto the resurrection of though, and so I'm going to go a little bit faster because I just realized Pastor got the clock up there and says I have 15 more minutes. Not as though I have already attained. No, you're not going to have me do this next week. Punishment is enough. But so not as though I had already attained, either were already perfect, but I talking to them because they saw him as perfect. He was the perfect persecutor. He was the perfect, like his status, he was perfect. But he's like, I haven't attained anything. I haven't made it in yet. I'm still down here. I haven't attained anything. I still have a sinful nature. I may, have God is not over. I haven't won yet. Every day. And let's face it, Paul, in his previous life, was a very passionate man. He was very he's saying I haven't won yet, and he's passionate about Christ. He's passionate about the gospel. He's passionate about the people of Christ. His whole life is about that, and he's still saying, but I haven't attained yet. I haven't made it yet. I'm not there yet. So man, if I'm not even close to where he was, I got work to do. Either we're already perfect, but I follow after, if that I may apprehend that for which also I am apprehended of Jesus Christ. His response to everything. We're on verse 12. Everything. I haven't attained anything. If I don't have God, if I haven't attained Christ, if he's not pleased with everything about me, I haven't won yet. I'm not there yet. I haven't achieved yet. Because, see, now everything is about achievements. That's why everybody gets a participation trophy and a ribbon. And they grading on curves. I grade on a curve. What? If you got an F, you got an F. Smartest kid in the class got an A. And the one who didn't put as much work in got an F. We ain't curving nothing. You get what you earn. We were talking about this in the car. But he's saying this is an ongoing process until I'm out of here. Every day. As long as I'm on the face of this earth, breathing air, I haven't attained. There's still work for me to do. I'm not done. I haven't done. And sometimes, and I can only speak for myself, you come to church and you sit back because you feel like you've reached it. You got there. You there. And so, don't ask me to do nothing because, I done achieved. And then God comes through and he's like, oh, really? The worst thing you want is for God to be like, oh, really? Nothing good comes after God's, oh, really? Right.
Looking forward to the resurrection from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we have time, Hebrews 11:35 helps us understand. He's like, I'm not going for just getting there. I'm trying to get that better reward, that greater reward. I'm trying to suffer with Christ on purpose, so that I can identify with him. I'm willing to go unto death on purpose for Christ, so that I can identify with him. Like he's like, I don't have that reward. That reward hasn't been attained yet. So I'm going to continue to seek after it. I'm
So when you said that, I thought about I don't know where I watched this video from, but there was this guy and he was trying to get to his kids in the daycare, but there was a restraining order against him. And so he's charging, and the people, the workers are standing in front of the door. The police come, and they're hitting him with the rubber bullets, and they're tasing him, and he has like leads stuck in him everywhere, and he's I'm going to get in there to my kids. No matter what you do to me, if you don't kill me, I'm going in there, and I'm getting to my kids. That just came back to my mind when she was talking about Paul was like, unless you kill me and I attain the resurrection, I haven't gone through enough. I haven't done enough. It's not enough. But we are comfortable with almost nothing and saying, Lord, that's enough now, God. I have been guilty of saying that, God, it's enough. I have had enough. And he's like, oh, really? You never want God to say, oh, really? It's not a good thing. But I used to cry and complain. I had issues in my marriage, and God kept telling me I'm not going to change his heart, and it's not going to get better until you focus on me. And I was like, God, I have had enough. It is not even right for somebody who's a Christian to be put up with this all the time. And God, it's just enough. I have had enough. And he was like, you really haven't had enough because you haven't changed. You're not listening. You're still being defiant. You still want what you want. It's not enough. It's not. You haven't had enough yet. You know why? Because you haven't surrendered. Because there's that level of enough where you say, God. See, I would say, God. And then 5 minutes later, I was like, all right, I just needed a breather. I'm back now. And he was like, oh, really? We can do it by conscious decision, or we can do it by force. You can surrender by choice, or you can surrender by force. Paul had an experience that changed everything. And God has tried to have encounters and experiences with us. Many of us have testimonies. When I was going to a Women of Courage conference to meet Joey. And I was not going for the conference. I didn't care nothing about God. I just wanted to see Joey. And God told me on the way there, if you don't get serious about me, I will kill you. He showed me my car wrecked on fire in a ditch. The car I was currently driving. He showed me in the car dead. So I get to the conference and I'm like, okay, God. And then everybody went out to eat it. And I was like, hey, Joey. Because even the risk of death wasn't enough for me to stop focusing on what I wanted and give him what he wanted. Because my flesh wasn't crucified. I was scared, but I had an encounter with him, but I didn't allow it to be a life-changing encounter. It just scared me for a minute, and then I was back to what I was there for. I'm just, I needed, it was rough, but now I'm focused on, they don't want to let me sit by Joey. God was like, this ain't what you here for. But, it's funny, but then I look at it and I see so many instances where God was like, look, I'm trying to do this kindly. I'm trying to do this gently. I'm trying to redirect you. I'm trying to get your attention. I'm trying to get you on track. But you want to be that kid that has got to completely fall apart. I had breast cancer and was found out that I was accepted into school and had to start school the next week. Still not enough. We have been through, and God is like, just turn to me, lean on me, surrender, give up. And then we back. Oh, I got this. I'm good now. Straighten our stuff out. And God is like, submit. Submit. And Paul was like, you ain't even got to go through all that, God. I give up. I've had an encounter with you. I open my heart. I open my eyes. And I want you. And the problem is, we don't, as she said, we don't really want God. We want his benefits. And we want comfort. Yes, ma'am. You got to make it quick. You can't talk slow. Come on. Well, if you say that, then everybody knows. Just so you know. What's my out? I don't know who this we is. Oh, there's no question, Miss Bonnie. Thank you. You took up the last 5 minutes. Now I have to finish this next week. Thank you very much. No, it's kidding. Yes, because the bottom half of this is all about Paul's relationship with God and how he views it. The first half was about trying to get them to understand the importance, but now just the beauty, like if you can see it how he sees it, just the beauty of being one with God and being with him and being on his side. So, oh, because Michelle wasn't talking in the mic. She was having a private share. But we're back. Like, yeah, because who's that? We all know. But the takeaway from the first part of this, and the amazing thing about Paul is when he wrote letters, they were just so multifaceted. The takeaway is that if your whole life isn't about God and pleasing him, suffering whatever you have to suffer, conforming to saying no to yourself and crucifying your flesh, you ain't doing it. That's the long and short of it. If your life isn't about pleasing God and crucifying your flesh, denying yourself, and saying, "Here I am," like Elijah, here I am, Lord. If that's not your answer, that's not it. You're not getting it. You're not there. You haven't achieved. You haven't attained. You got some work to do. If you're still making excuses for the things that you told God you were going to give up, if you're still making excuses for doing the things he told you to stop doing. So let me tell you guys. I'm going to tell you this real quick because I don't know where Pastor's at. So Pastor told me to quit eating Popeyes. He told everybody to quit eating Popeyes. But something he told me, he was like, you can have, something that's not great for you if you have it like every now and again. So I went to Popeyes and got some food because I was stressed to the whole max. I mean, he was like, just turn your phone off, T. Because I was like, if that phone ring one more time, and it would ring. And I was like, come on, God, come on now. Come on now. I need a minute to recover. And let me tell y'all, when I say, because he's been dealing with me, he was like, I told you not to put that in your body. Now it has made you sick. I was like, do I have food poisoning? Do I have a stomach virus? What is going on? When I tell you I have never, the sweat, the pain. But you know what he said? I said, see, we think about like, I don't curse and I don't drink and I'm not fornicating. But there are other things that God is telling us to say no to that we're like, oh, you know what? It's just some chips. It's just a soda. Well, actually, I just really rather feed my addiction to food and junk than listen to you. And I have excuses for it because I eat healthy 6 days a week. This is my binge day. Well, that bleeds over into your spiritual life. You can't have a binge day. Every day you got to be on it. But I've conditioned myself that I'm good for 6 days, and then on the 7th day I get to binge. So I do the same thing in my spirit. So the importance of this is to give it all up. Surrender to and let God be the Lord. Because in a kingdom, the servants don't have a say. The Lord makes a rule, and the servant don't come and say, well, I don't like that rule. The servant says, well, I guess this is a new rule. This is what we're doing. If God is truly the Lord of our lives, we have to live that out. He has to be the Lord of what I think. He has to be the Lord of how I feel. He has to be the Lord of what I say. He has to be the Lord of what I see. He has to be the Lord of what I eat. He has to be the Lord of what I drink. He has to be the Lord of where I go. He has to be the Lord of where I don't go. He has to be the Lord of what everything. Everything. Yes.
I don't know. This chapter was very, very good to me. Like when I was just like reading it, but I was thinking and just talking to God about it, and I was even thinking about our prayers. A lot of times it's like, God help me to do this. God help us to do this. God help us to do that. We hear it all the time. We pray to ourselves, God help us to do that, and we don't understand this power because God doesn't need to help us to do that. The power is already in you. It's already in me. The problem is we just have to make a choice. We just have to make a choice. The power is working in us already, but we're begging God like we want him to personally come down and stop us from doing stuff. And to me, I was like, God, are we praying wrong? Because we're asking you to help us do stuff that you've already given us control over our own selves to do. Help us to identify what we need to pray about. We just need deliverance. We just need to make a choice. We just need to submit. But we already have the power to do the things that we keep asking him to do. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of, a lot of stuff ran through my mind when I was reading this chapter. It's like, we just have to make the choice that it is God over everything. Are we going to be perfect at it? Maybe not. But we have to make a choice and do something different, because he's not going to force us. He's not going to come down and make everything. He's already done it. He's already done enough. And he's already given us his power. He said that I may know the excellency of and the power. That power is already in me. So why am I praying and begging him to do something that he already gave me the power to do? That doesn't make any sense. But that's what we do as his people. Like, we just want a genie. He's like, no, I'm a God. I'm not your genie. We just have to make a choice. Sorry.
Absolutely. So apparently I'll be back next week. It always happens to me. I will turn it over into the hands of our pastor.